Stephen, the Irish Hotels Federation had a very successful annual conference last week in Cavan, a record attendance. Is that an indication of improved confidence in the sector?
Yeah, no, we were delighted. We probably had one of our most successful conferences ever, certainly for a number of years. There was a strong sense of recovery there. People are much more positive. I think we were looking forward now again. It was interesting with a lot of people, for example, at the Showtel, the event, and a lot of hotels buying things again, which is good to see. So there is a renewed sense of confidence there. Yeah, our delegate numbers were very strong, and I guess Cavan is a good location because it's central. It's central, and also it's not too many places you can go. When you have everybody in Cavan, it worked out.
So the networking was good.
Networking was fantastic. Yeah.
And I picked up on that confidence. In fact, it was palpable at the meeting. But still a feeling that the recovery was a little bit uneven, with Dublin powering ahead of the rest. Is that a fair comment?
I think that's a fair comment, yeah. I mean, we had various presentations throughout the conference, and one of the things that did come through quite strongly was Dublin had performed that bit better than everywhere else. But it's always been the case in recovery. Usually you need the bigger place to perform first, and then it eventually comes out to the rest of the country. But Dublin has performed well. I think the cities, Galway, Limerick has performed a lot better. Cork is strong as well. They've performed well. Killarney is good. Kilkenny is good. And rurally, they've all seen a little bit of growth this year, which is positive. But probably the growth level is, we need a couple of years of that to get back to some sort of level of sustainability.
And sticking with Dublin, you had some interesting data presented, which we hear that Dublin is high occupancy, very busy, and prices are going up. But in fact, you had data presented there which suggests that you're still very competitive by comparison with any comparable European city.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that you find with Dublin, it's often the case that the media will highlight big events, but if you take it over the piece and over the year, certainly Dublin is powering ahead. We're the second most occupied city in Europe of the set that we have, which is fantastic. And our rate, though, is number 14. So we're the 14th highest rate, but the second most occupied. So that gave us a fair sense of where Dublin is. So we're certainly not out of kilter with other European cities. And yes, when there's events on, the price does go up a little bit, but that's a supply and demand situation.
Happens in every city.
It happens increasingly. And I suppose the other thing that's happened a lot, and a lot of the members we found this year, there's been a lot of refurbishment going on now. People are renewing their product, and we do a little bit more profit to come through because we've had 5 to 6 years of neglect, for want of a better word, and people need to renew their product.
And of course that's the very point, and while Dublin does need some additional new hotels, and hopefully in the near future, that realistically isn't going to start happening until the return on investment is such that it will attract investors into the city to expand.
No, you're absolutely right, Eamon, and I think if you take Dublin as a city, we'd be in full agreement that, look, the centre of Dublin does need additional hotels, and there are moves there now. I know a lot of colleague hotels, they've added rooms to hotels, so every space they can find they're adding more rooms on. But in reality, Dublin has had a great increase, and the conference centre is performing very well. You also have the stadia, the Aviva and Croke Park doing well, and Google Land, I call it. When you look at the amount of investment gone in there, and there's a big fight on then when new property comes in. Hotels probably are third in the queue, probably after office space and after accommodation. And that's the reality of it.
Right. You also had an interesting paper presented by the economist Alan Ahern on the link between lower taxes and job creation. Tell us a little bit about that paper.
Well, I think there's been a lot of talk in the media about the VAT, and the reality is, I think everybody accepts it's probably been one of the best policies the government announced since the downturn. And tourism then has been a shining light in the recovery, if you like. So we are in no doubt about that. So I think everybody's of the agreement that the 9% has definitely worked. We've created over 33,000 jobs since 2011, and we know that as well. But I suppose we're looking forward as well, and when the figures were originally done, and we're working this out now, that's the next piece of work, is to find out how much did it actually save, because what we found that we're seeing is that the exchequer returns are actually higher because we've created more business and employment's increased. So we're in no doubt about that. The other thing that we found, and I think Alan pointed out very well in his paper, our VAT rate is not out of kilter with our competitors across Europe. So we're around the 9%. A lot of people 8%. Even Germany is lower than we are.
That's right.
So our competitors all along have been charging lower VAT rates, and we're often wondering why we can't get them to Ireland. And I keep telling people we are an island economy. We've got these people to travel over to us. It's easier maybe for, say, the UK, where you can drive to Scotland, or in Germany you can drive to a lot of other countries around it. We've actually got to get them into a plane or another craft to get them to the country. So from that point of view, and so it is satisfying satisfying to see, look, the 9% is certainly not out of kilter with the competitors across Europe.
So it's not that it's a low rate, it's probably the correct rate.
I think it's probably the correct rate, yeah. And I think everybody's learned from this. I suppose in our own belief, when the 9% was done, it was great. It gave people a hand to get going. But we now realise, we should be doing this all along.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where tourism should be at.
And finally, Stephen, all the key indicators suggest that we will see further growth in both overseas and domestic tourism this year, and indeed in subsequent years. But what are the things that concern you occasionally that might threaten that growth forecast?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the number one thing, and we did mention at the conference, was the fact that investment in our national tourism agencies needs to be maintained.
Yes.
And I think everybody knows there's been a decline in the investment over the last 3 to 4 years. We've probably put in €25 million less in investment. And you got to remember
that catches up.
That catches up, and we're also getting less bang for our buck when we're about to sell the country because of the way the exchange rates have gone. So that is a little bit of a worry. Now, what is very positive is, I suppose, that the airlines are going well. Dublin Airport's flying. Shannon is going well. We need to sort out Cork, get Cork moving, and then that brings it all into place. The Wild Atlantic Way, I think it was very well put to at the conference when we were talking to our colleagues in Fáilte, and he mentioned, it's like having this big shopping aisle, shopping store, but the aisles need to be filled out, and that's where we are, I guess, with the Wild Atlantic Way. And I think the Eastern Heritage Trail now will be fantastic. They're going to do some more work now in the Midlands, which is really important for the people there. So I think that's great. So we have renewed optimism. I do think as well, what's really working well is that all the agencies, whether you're in hotels or restaurants or tourism, everybody's working a lot better together.
That's true.
And I think we have to ensure that happens, because if you have fractions going on or something breaks, it is very difficult then to keep everything together. So the messaging is much the same from everybody. And when somebody says, look, we need some help with everybody get rows in and we get the thing resolved. So I think the other thing then is probably our people. And we are worried about resources on the longer term. And Ireland's got a great thing. One of the things we have is our people, and I'm so passionate about that. If we keep that right, we distinguish ourselves against other countries. And the Fáilte Ireland
differentiator, isn't it?
It's fantastic. And the Fáilte Ireland survey, it says 92% of the people who visit our country are very happy to come here. So that's important for us as well. But overall, I think it's very optimistic. We've got to watch out for the clouds. Keep investing, because this thing, tourism, will be here for our children, and we've got to mind it.
Indeed. And it's not a sin to be optimistic. We've been downtrodden or downbeaten for too long and negative, and we had good reason to be, because there were tough times. But on that positive note, Stephen, we'll wish you the best of luck for your second year in high office, and hopefully at the end of that term, but this time next year, we'll be looking forward to even further growth.
More numbers growth. Thank you very much. Thank you.